Three, two, one. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Failure Friday, where we talk to friends, colleagues, sometimes strangers about how failure has shaped them personally, professionally, how it's propelled them forward and made them a more well rounded version of themselves. And we want to take these experiences and learn from them and teach other people in our communities, our peers, either locally, internationally. I have all types of people message me after these shows. It's definitely turned into way more than I could have ever imagined, which is beautiful, but also a lot of pressure to keep improving. So I'm so thankful for you guys watching and tuning in. And today we have a new guest, someone I would have never expected to want to be on my podcast, but he came up to me and was like, hey, yo, like, let me on your podcast. So here we are. This is Arjun Luke. I always thought his name was June, but apparently it's not. It's Arjun, which I'm guessing you just cut that in half and were like, call me June. Right? Is that how that happened?
Yeah, basically. I mean, I tried to break it down by syllables, so it's Arjun, and I'm like,
Make
okay,
it
what is Jun sounds too weird, so I was like June.
Jun.
So
I like June. I like June. That's
right,
my birthday. It's the month we're in. He is a dialysis tech, but also
right.
a freelance filmmaker. I totally changed that around to make that sound way cooler and more up to par with what it actually is, which is a creative, beautiful creative silo. So that's a very vague intro, June. Why don't you give us more of a background on what is a dialysis tech, what is dialysis, and what type of freelance work really speaks to your soul?
So dialysis is kidney failure, and kidney failure happens like kidneys basically like just think of it like any kind of filter, like uh, what's it called? Think of like a cloth, like you're running constantly water through. You know what I'm saying? And the
Huh.
more rocks and whatever that gets caught up in it or makes it stickier for the water to come through, it makes it stuck, clogged up, and not useful. You know what I'm saying? Literally a filter, quietly. Like every time your heart pumps, there's like a few cc's of blood, like literally being like streamed just like that almost.
So it's like a
And
strainer.
yeah, quite. Yeah, it's like a strainer. Pulls all the extra water out your blood. Literally squeezes the extra water out your blood cells and makes sure it's ready to go around. But you can shut that down by having extra sugar and extra salt. Uh, Sugar holds on to extra water, so technically it's like you're running up the pressure, blood pressure in your system. So like the pressure that they take is too much, and like they just become usable. Like either they become too like you ever heard of varicose veins?
Yes.
So it
That's the
become
veins
like
that come through the skin?
yeah, on the legs and stuff. So that happens like when there's not a good enough flow venous wise, like back to the heart. So become too loose, or if it's through sugar. Sugar is basically like a light acid. You know what I'm saying? So when people diabetes and stuff is, so you're only supposed to have like 25 grams of sugar a day. One can of Coke got like 50. So when you drink like one can, you're like marinating yourself in like a light acid. And so people who drink like a lot of sugary stuff over time are like marinating their kidney more than anything because it's like filtering. You know what I'm saying? And so literally kind of eats it away and doesn't become
I've
usable.
never heard someone explain that so well. That was really good. Proud of
Hey,
you.
look, I'm a very in tune person, so like when people try to like tell me something, I try to learn it in a way like I can tell these patients because I promise you, like doctors in this field, like you know what I'm saying, they're busy too, so like they have so many like people they have to like see, they can only like stop by to say so much. Like it's on us to like educate the people more. You know what I'm saying?
How many people do you think come through the institution you work at that actually understand what you just said? Like percentage wise, throw a percentage out there. Like, does everyone
Pro-
have a pretty good understanding on why this is happening to them?
no. Um, No, because usually no, they don't. I would say probably like 90%. I mean, they know it's because of like high blood pressure and diabetes, but they wouldn't know any further than what those two diseases are and what it actually does and how that disease over time affected um, their kidneys. You know what I'm saying? They just know they had high blood pressure that
That's
shut down their
terrifying.
kidneys. Yeah,
That's
it
terrifying.
is.
I've
I
always
mean,
wondered that.
Yeah. I mean, that's why people have to cut their feet off usually. Like your heart is literally like a pressure washer. So you heard of frostbite, right? Like your body,
Hmm.
when it gets too cold, your body wants to conserve all the blood near the center mass because your smallest veins and nerves are at the end. It's your body's like bump it. So if you don't exercise and you're drinking like a lot of this or extremely obese person or something, um, that sugar kind of rests at their feet. You know what I'm saying? Literally like gravity, and it eats away at the nerves and blood vessels over there. So when they get a cut, they won't know it, and if it does cut, it won't heal. Now they got like infected. They got to cut their feet off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that happened to one of AJ's family members.
Wow.
He had to get a leg removed, if I'm not, of several toes, fingers, and then eventually it
Yeah.
killed him.
Yeah.
And I mean, I want to say
Yeah.
a lot of it was preventable. And I think a lot of it was just from miseducation and just a cultural cycle that, some people just change is scarier than death almost, it seems like.
Yeah, it is. Like it is. It's very difficult. Like I myself like struggle with weight. Right now I'm kind of like, a little bit on the upside, but so I can understand how easy it is to get like caught up. But like everybody kind of needs to have like a basic understanding of like how much we're supposed to consume and how big we're like actually supposed to be, because I think that view of ourself is kind of like self distorted. Like I'm like 5'8". I'm supposed a healthy weight technically for me is like 160 to like 180, 190. You know what I'm saying? Anything more than that will be putting too much stress on my bones. Your bones make your blood. You know what I'm saying? It comes from your marrow. So the more stress there's on there, you get what I'm saying. It's like a factory.
That's,
So
I didn't
the
know that.
outproduct of it isn't going to be good.
I feel like that's something I should have
Yeah, no.
known, but I didn't know our bones were a main contributor in our blood supply. I guess it makes sense now that you say
It
it.
makes all
Our
of them.
marrow. Yeah, I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's call me dumb. Did you? I don't think that's maybe that's well known. Maybe I'm just slow. Whatever. Here we are. Okay. Is there a specific group of people that come through? Is it pretty much just across the board?
Um,
Is it pretty equal?
okay, this is another thing that I feel like no, that I feel like isn't talked about a lot is like 50% of the people on there are black people. More, probably
Why
even
do you
more
think that?
they're of African American heritage. I know it. It's stated everywhere. They say a large amount, but numbers are easy. I like numbers too. So yeah, I work at multiple clinics. I've been working here for like 5, 6 years. So if I count
Jeez, I didn't know it was that long.
10 patients, right, in Jacksonville, I know. If I'm in Jacksonville, like civilian population, African Americans account for 35% of the population. So if I'm in a room with 10 random people, 3 of them should be black, right? In most dialysis room, out of every 10, it's like 6, 7,
Holy
every shift.
fuck. That's
Yeah.
bad.
And then it's Filipinos. I mean, no, it's white people after, of course, just by
Obviously,
numbers.
we're
Right,
not talking semantics. I
right,
want to
right.
know culturally what are you seeing?
Yeah, and then okay, then it's okay. Say less. Then it's Filipinos here because there's a lot by number because they're here by the Navy, and Latinos. But one thing I noticed, like liking history, is all three of those groups in particular. They were like converted, Christianized, and all that other good stuff. But a pig is a main part of their diet. Like what I'm saying. I have a lot of Filipino friends I hang out with. I'm in Jacksonville, so pig is a main part of their diet. And I'm not saying
Pork.
the pig necessarily is bad, but the pig is, it's not, you need a lot of salt to enhance the taste of it. So when people say like, oh, blood pressure is genetic or sugar is genetic, well, sugar and salt were just, you know, flavor enhancers that were given because the way the systems were run in the Philippines, uh, most Latin countries and for black people here, like they were fed like the bad scraps of meat. That's why they eat oxtail. Like I went to a Filipino store, like they had a meat, and I was like, "What's the gravy?" They were like, "Oh, it's pork's blood." You get what I'm saying? They get like the bad cuts of the meat, and they use salt to enhance the taste. Like if I give you a bowl of rice, no soy sauce, no nothing, Like you might only eat a couple of spoons, but if I throw some soy sauce on there or some salt, like you might eat the whole bowl just because you trick your brain. You get what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's my hypothesis. Because I got to think like, well, at one point we as a people would have to just eat what was given to by us, the land. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if you heard of Dr. Sebi or whatever. He talk about like what we got to eat according to our where we're from, like geographically in a sense. If you're
Mm-hmm.
from where you got like high access to like fruits year round, you should probably eat more fruits and vegetables.
Oh,
And
you mean
like
like our ancestors? Like
in
what,
a sense, yeah,
like genetically, what you're predominant, like I'm German. I should probably focus
yeah,
on the natural diet of Germany.
yeah.
Germans.
Like for example, white people, like charcuterie board,
Yes, I know what shark. I know what shark.
right?
I'm a white
So
girl. What?
exactly. So like, I mean, respectfully, everything's cool here, but um, because like you guys would have harsh winters and not access to certain fruits or vegetables over time, the European sanction of the people over time, they had to find different ways to like get food. So like large kill. That's why it's always like you have pictures in your head of mammoth, the cavemen killing mammoths, etc. In the wintertime, saving it for a long time. Not pictures, like memories from movies
Yeah,
and stuff. But those are all kind of true. And aging milk, cheese, etc. But like that necessarily isn't good for somebody from probably the African genetics or for say India or Philippines. I'm not saying we didn't have meat, but like not at
it
that
didn't
rate.
make up a predominant amount of their diet. Like
Yeah.
in Germany, at least my grandpa is from Germany, and he lives very much very German. And when we went to Berlin, his hometown, we ate a traditional German diet, and it was just meat, man. Like a lot of meat, a lot of cheese. Meat and cheese is what they
So
eat.
I wasn't tripping.
No, like we eat a fuck ton of cheese, but like a gross every meal you have blood sausage, pork sausage, it's goose, it's duck, it's rabbit. It's just like too much meat. But I get what you're saying, and like Filipinos specifically, because my the office manager, she married her second marriage was to a Filipino, and she talks a lot about how in the first 10 years of their marriage, it was very hard to get accustomed to how much rice and pork that they ate. It was such a huge part of their diet, and she's
Yeah.
not used to that.
Yeah.
So
I
that makes
mean,
a lot
I
of
think,
sense.
yeah. And the second wave that hit their people was also because after World War II, they joined the American side of the war, and part of joining against Japan, and part of joining was like they get American aid. So basically, everything that we
A lot
have
of
on WIC
rice.
here, they got sent over there. A lot of rice, a lot of American cheese. Like a lot of their desserts have like American cheese on it. I didn't know that.
That's crazy.
I know, right?
I've already learned so
They eat a
much.
lot of
This is
spam.
yes.
See, our WIC got sent over there as aid for joining the war, and that didn't
That's
help
funny
them
you
out.
said that. No, no, and that's not just. I mean, my husband, like when I'd never eat someone, I'd never seen someone eat. He calls them Vienna sausages, and they're like in a can. And he's like the pickiest eater. But one day he like came out of the gas station with this like little. I thought it was tuna fish, and he like cracks it open. And he starts eating these little weenies, and I'm like, what is that? He goes, these are Vienna sausages, and I was like, if they're named after Vienna, then I think they're Vienna sausages. But that can't be good for you. And then I had bologna for the first time at his house. I thought it was ham that went bad. I literally went and woke up his mom, and I was like, hey, I think your ham's bad. And she was like, bitch, that's bologna. And I was like, oh. Eartha, I hope you're watching that because that is probably the most embarrassed I've ever felt in my entire life. When you were like, Earl, it's baloney. This bitch tripping.
Nah,
So yeah, I think that it goes back to a lot of what you're saying, that a lot of this is like, I don't think pork necessarily. I think what we just talked about was separated into two pieces. Like me being German, the ancient diet of Germans, meat and cheese, a lot to do with the really harsh winters. But I think there's a second part to what we're talking about, more so with the Filipino and African American, that's what was given for so many years in this country. They were given the poor shift of food supply. And that kind of became ingrained in the diet that they sometimes permeate today.
Yeah, like you said, like in the Vienna sauce, most of the stuff gets shipped out have preservatives, right? And technically, your body is supposed to. I know this is like almost gonna get spiritual, but it's not. I promise. But like, it's supposed to like, cycle itself out. Like, if you get a cut, it heals. So preservatives, technically, if you're visualizing it, the more preservatives you have in your system, because it's making something stay the same long. A dead material stay edible longer. You get what I'm saying? So when you get traces of that inside you, slows down your own healing process. You get what I'm saying? And your body like replaces itself every 7 years. And so if you're exposed to like a diet with a lot of preservatives over like 7 years, technically like what your mesh, your mud, is mainly like you're not running at full speed.
Your mesh, your mud. I like the way you did that. That was almost
I mean,
poetic.
again, working at dialysis changed my perspective on that because you can't pee, so everything they drink stays on their body. So we pull out a lot of water, and so when I pull out too much, sometime, right? Like let's say they ate a lot and I can't tell it was just water. They literally get stuck, like their eyes get stuck because there's not enough water in their eyes to move. And I just give them some saline back and they get unstuck, right?
That's crazy.
And so that made me literally, right, vision, right? That's literally, and they throw up. So technically they're like sweating, but we're pulling. I'll tell you how we do it, even crazier. Made me visualize. I was like, water. They always say we're like 80% water. And so, and then at that moment, I'm thinking cremations in India. And then I'm like, okay, so when they burn me, I'm only like 5 or 6 pounds when I get cremated. The rest of me evaporates. And then I remember, right. So I went to Darnell Cookman. It was like a medical magnet school over here. And one of the things that one of the teachers there told me, your body replaces itself every year. I mean, every 7 years. So like your skin cells every 30 days, like you have new skin. Your bones being the slowest takes. So it's like getting a car. You change the wheels, the seats bit by bit. You change every part. Is it still the same car?
No,
you know what I'm saying?
I would disagree. I mean, even mentally, I mean, I'm sure your brain develops vastly over 5 years, 2 years. I mean, I look back at who I was 5 years ago, and it's a totally different person. It's the way you think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, your brain calluses. So the electricity that's running through like your nerves. So when you learn a new habit, it actually like calluses in one area. Like it fires over time. Right. It hardens. So when you learn a new instrument, that's why it becomes, if you learn one, now you already know the notes, it becomes easier for you to do the other. That's why habits form too, and it's hard to break. Because if it calluses, it's literally like a callus on your brain that's already triggered and set up for you to like do certain actions that's hard for you to break.
Yeah, I've learned that just from studying and reading so much when I first, well, college in general, school, but then having to study for all these licenses. The first one was so hard. Like they're all hard, but that first one was so hard. But then every license after that, and there wasn't much overlap. It's just your brain gets used to how to study for that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's cool to hear the science behind it.
I mean, basically, I mean, that's what it's going to feel like to us here in the flesh. But like, technically you live in your head. You remember like all your thoughts and like, again, I don't know how to describe this, but this is like a little bit of physics. Like we were closer to like the last word that came out of my mouth than the next word that's coming out of my mouth. If that makes any sense.
Say that again. That made no fucking sense. Say it again.
Like time-wise, like we're closer to like the last word that came out of my mouth than the next word that's coming out of my mouth. And so that's what people, when they die, they have near-death experiences when, like, when they say like we humans showed up here in the last second of the last day of the universe or whatever. So the way we experience time is kind of like that, like only from our frame rate. But that's why all your memories kind of stay with you, is because all of it is kind of etched in you. And how long have you been doing this?
Doing what? The podcast or
Like
finance?
no, 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 your finance style. How long have you been studying for it?
Oh, how old am I? I'm 29. 15 years?
15 years. So if you like, I've done a lot of jobs in my life. So, most jobs have like that, 90-day period. If you can force yourself to like do something like 40 at 5 days a week, 40 hours a week for like 3 months, your brain will like naturally callous some kind of habit to where it becomes easier for you. You might, if you're a videographer, you might put your like just going out to random games. You might meet another photographer there, and he might put you on to somebody. You get what I'm saying? And that's what
Mm-hmm.
plays out in real life for us. But it's just like what repetitive behavior is inside our head. Sometimes like you just gotta block out what we see here and like totally lock in your head. I mean, these are things
So,
just go ahead.
so my next question was, I felt like an easy one, but you're so passionate and knowledgeable about dialysis, really health, anatomy in general, which kind of took me off guard how passionate you were about that. I was going to ask you which career more so represents the direction you would like to continue moving in. Like which one speaks to you, I guess your soul or spiritually more. But I, if you 10
Astrophysics.
minutes ago, I would have thought you would have been like, oh, filmmaker for sure. But I don't know now.
Astrophysics. It's what I
Astrophysics.
wanted. It's what I wanted to be like ever since I was in sixth grade. Since I went to medical school, I went to like Neil deGrasse Tyson. You know that I met him when I was in sixth grade at UNF. Like all the kids want to
Wow.
go to concerts. I wanted to go see freaking Neil deGrasse Tyson. Um, Speaking of being Indian, I was raised like a Catholic Indian, and being from
Is
India
that
in
common?
general, where the part of India where I'm from, yeah, it's very common. Uh, but they're very strict. Like Indians are very strict, competitive when it comes to religion. So like I wasn't allowed to look at any media, no Harry Potter, like all that's like witchcraft, etc. Right, and
Wow.
very inclusive too to like how who we communicate with. But but I was forced upon like religion like being one way. But then I see like in real life that wasn't the case. And so even just as like a young child, I just started wondering like what the scriptures meant and all that. I'm like, I don't think they mean all that stuff literally. And I just started thinking that as a child. And, internet, I just started looking up answers. Somehow I was like, what's up there up in the sky? And so that's kind of how it started. And I've been like fascinated ever since.
So we're talking about astrophysics, and I want to kind of redirect that conversation into what are you doing currently to proceed forward with astrophysics? Because dialysis tech doesn't seem to run into that, or filmmaking, right?
No, I love filmmaking is like a natural passion of mine. I felt like because as an Indian, like, movies is something we watch. Like every state has their own kind of Mollywood, Collywood, Tollywood, all kinds of woods. Like movies are so like I felt like I was a natural just a videographer. Like I don't have that much very good video editing skills or anything. I just have like good angles, good eye. They I say like that's what all my friends say, and I can like put something together. But
You enjoy it.
I like, yeah, I enjoy it for sure. Like, and doing it for Coach, I feel like he's the only one. He's a healer in my eyes. I look at what he's doing like very seriously, like very different. Like he's doing what the doctor should be doing in a sense. Like beforehand, like that's what should be going on. People getting educated. So, in a way, like that speaks to my like I can live with that. Like I'm okay being over there. The jobs I pick, like I'm very it has to be with my morals, but filmmaker, and so that's why I'm doing that. But as to be astrophysics physicist, like the only thing that you could get from a degree with astrophysics is being like there's not many jobs. One, you just be writing paper. You would basically be like a YouTuber, and they get paid a little more than I get already paid right now. And so, a lot of jobs your parents say, "Oh, don't do that. Like you're not gonna get paid." This is one of those ones that's like time wise, like I would be stuck. Like you be in a library or some kind of museum, like that'd be your day job. Um, unless like you're like Neil deGrasse Tyson, like you're famous media wise. I can probably start a YouTube channel, but that was one of the reasons. And also the reason I got in it for was not to like, because I'm very bad at math. You have to be like extreme. I'm not very bad at math. I'm not as good as like I already know. I understand the concepts. I understand exactly what they're explaining, which if you actually like take your time to like go in and explain, I mean, look into what they're explaining, it's freaking nuts. But the laws of reality, like, E equals MC squared and stuff.
Oh yeah, I've fallen into several holes.
Yeah. But some of those things are like factual. Not factual, like we can visualize that concept they're trying to explain it to us in like certain events in like real life. Um, but I put so much like not time, like of my like I do it as a hobby so much. I feel like I've learned everything like I could have learned if I went to school for it. So the only thing I try to do now is like the government recently, like a couple weeks ago, they like not admitted, like the Department of Defense said like UFOs were like real.
Okay, that was more than a couple weeks ago. I
It
don't
was
know
like two,
why
three
everyone's
weeks ago.
just talking about this. This shit was no, it was on the news like
Years ago.
at least 2 years ago because I remember watching it.
Yeah.
And it was when I first started my journey with Christianity, and I was like doing my Bible study, and I was watching the news, and it came on the news, and I was like, "What the fuck? Like, where does this play into this book I'm reading? Because does this change the game?" But yeah, go into what you're about to say.
Everything like Jesus said about not everything, like it's true, almost one, and then two. Excuse me. No, they said they released a video, but in my eyes, like I'll be not a physicist, but being an educated person on this, like I'm not gonna just like get headlines like moving me. So when they said it was a video, I'm like, we've been seeing videos forever. I need more details or like somebody to like verify. And so them verifying it was good, but then they released details about like how quickly it was moving and stuff like that a couple weeks ago. So it was at like 80,000 feet and it dropped to like 10 feet sea level, 0.7 seconds. That's like 5,000 miles an hour or 55,000 miles an hour. The fastest thing we can make can only go like 1,000 miles an hour. So technically it's moving like a laser pointer. And so, I always watch the UFO videos, like I said, just as a hobby. Like, I'll just come across those. A lot of people say when they come close to these craft, like one of them was a cop. They said they would like feel like time had passed, etc. They would say they got abducted because of that. But science, right, says if something is moving that fast, you're gonna experience some kind of time dilation. Like you're gonna because there's a frame rate to life that you and I can't yet perceive, and you can break through that. Like you ever seen a video of an airplane going through the sound barrier?
Yes, and people get this confused with dimensions. Or I guess not confused is the right word, but like I think a word that people are more familiar with is dimensions, but really it has to do with speed. When something is going in crazy high speed that we just can't even conceptualize, time, everyone's heard time is a construct. Well, time is literally a construct that is directly related to the speed in which something is moving.
Correct.
So, like I said, I've fallen into a few holes.
Yeah, no. I mean, literally. So if you seen the video of the thing, you actually like, the wind you feel when you run? If you can go fast enough through that would be the first frame, the sound barrier. And you'll be going a few little, like, minutely literally like it's not that much, but you're like a little bit in the future. Like it's not even enough to say like you're in the future because air pilots do it all the time. But the closer and closer you get to that speed, like you be experiencing some kind of time. Now, one thing I believe is like I also learned is like the atom they talk about it. The smaller they break it, it just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Nucleus, my I forgot the other name. Whatever. You just keep getting protons,
Mitochondria.
electrons. Way
Is
past
that what you're about
that.
to
But
say?
no, I was gonna say I forgot what I was gonna say. But I was gonna
The
say
electric
neutron.
powerhouse of the cell. Learned that in 7th grade. Oh, neutron. Totally different thing. Sorry.
Yeah, neutron. Like a mitochondria is probably made out of billions of neutrons. That's the crazy thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you ever seen Horton Hears a Who? So it's kind of like that. So everything just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Like we're closer in size to like the bacteria on your table that you wipe off than like the rest of the known universe. And so like that makes me feel like I don't know. It makes me worried about like certain things. You know what I'm saying? I always
I think when we talk about things in the sense of size and where we stand on the spectrum of size as we know it, it makes me want to live more in the present.
yeah, for sure. So it makes me feel like the aliens don't have that much. They can't. Nobody can have all the power. Is what it tells them. It's like a
No,
fractal.
no, and I've God, we're really getting into this. I've gotten into uh, even learning the different types of aliens that we're aware of. Like
Yeah,
I've even
me
gone into
too.
that. Like I've like there's like all these different. God, I'm gonna lose a lot of you guys here. There's like all these different types, and there's some that like we're cool with, like that
Yeah,
we've certain people have met and we have relationships. But there's politics within the
yeah,
universe already. We have not come into contact allegedly with all of the people that are alive, but there are some that are more familiar to us that have already. We won't go in that far into it, but it's fascinating how deep you can go into this topic. And I will say that this topic has actually made me grow more in my faith because I don't even know how to describe it. We are all here. When I say here, I'm talking about everywhere for a purpose. And I don't think that purpose was created due to math and biology. I genuinely think that something created all of this. And it's made me more like it's made me more in awe of the vastness of this creator. Because I don't think it's limited to just us. I think the Bible was intended to make something understandable for us. I think Jesus was real, and his job was to come here and make religion palatable for our species. And I think that every species has that experience that is palatable for them. I'm not asking you to agree, but
no, I actually agree with quite literally with almost everything what you're saying. I actually got into that too. Some of them talk about like how they made us into slaves to like build the pyramids and etc. All that other good stuff, which I don't agree with all of it. But again, I'm a history nut, so some of the stuff they fed slaves back in the day was bread and beer, so they stay fat and fit, grounded, like emotionally. Yeah, I mean whatever, hardened. They're hardened people, and if you actually look at what Jesus did, right? So go somewhere, isolate yourself from society, because even the way, again, respectfully, the way you were speaking about religion, like I think you see it from the flesh. You know what I'm saying? I think it's
probably.
inside, because when he went and fasted for 40 days, like he kind of isolated himself from everything that caught his reaction when his people calling his name. You know what I'm saying? That makes your flesh react. Oh, Arjun. Well, I don't know why I'm reacting. I mean, we think it's normal, but we're reacting. We're getting pulled in different ways, so we don't get to see or be with ourselves. And then we can't eat. He didn't eat. So when he said like, "Oh, the devil was going to turn this rock into bread," I think that was just his, because your flesh has a mind of its own. I think every flesh has different purposes, like you said. I don't know what this one's necessary. Yeah, like you said, everybody has their own. That's the crazy. If you connect with your inner self, you can kind of do whatever you want. I mean, not kind of do whatever. My point is, let me go back. Fasting 40 days. So don't eat. And so, like, when they say if you smoke weed right now, it stays in your system for 30 days. And so, technically, if you take a cross section of my fat, everything in there is like trace elements of everything I consumed in the last 30 days. And so, technically, there's always some trace elements inside me that's probably not allowing me to project how I truly feel or say the words I truly feel, etc. And we can't necessarily blame it on that because technically we're better than that. But let's say you're somebody who takes like behavior medication, and one day you didn't have it, and you acted out because of chemical imbalance in your head. Like your body will quite literally do that. Or if you're taking an antidepressant, you might feel like, or even tobacco, like anything. It could be a lover,
Even
anything.
weed.
Weed.
I mean, my best friend, he smokes every day, and if he's all day, not all day, Rocco, but like a lot of the day. And like I was on vacation with him, and he didn't have it for like 2 days, and buddy was like miserable to be around. So like even weed, I think, can do that too to the right person. I'm not gonna say every person. Anything in excess to me is not good.
Anything that's callous to your mind to react. But some of the ones that they talk about in the Bible, that guy Jesus was food, right? One, he isolated himself from people, so people technically you don't need like not yeah, you don't need anybody, but you have electricity inside you. It's actually like if gravity is always pushing you down, right? So something's holding me up all the time, and that's the electricity inside. We call it electrocardiogram. Beep 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 beep. At the hospital. Beep. So as long as that's beating, it's allowing me to hold up my 200 pounds of flesh, and but it's being controlled by everything that we say we've been conditioned by, or everything that I grew up. So, bad bitches. Gotta go smoke. Gotta like you were saying, all these behaviors that you gotta go isolate, and then, but if you stop smoking weed, my bad, that's where I was at truly. If you stop smoking weed, the fat, like, it starts eating away. After 30 days, you're straight basically. So if you don't eat anything, like just drink salt water, maybe bread without yeast, because that's what I believe what he had, and like Muslims eat on Ramadan. Because I studied all of these religions, try to only put together like what they have in common. Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, all the prophets, they were away in a mountain or somewhere under a tree, isolated when they met God, they say. So I'm not saying they met God, but I'm pretty sure like cutting yourself off for like that long will make you think differently. But what was the other thing? He told him, I'll give you, if you jump down, I'll give you all the riches of the world. So that's another
Talk about the
thing that,
devil.
yeah, the devil, the flesh. We can call it the flesh, but we can turn him into a good guy if whatever. But your flesh is conditioned. That's why you wake up and do all the things you do every day without even questioning a lot of people. But um, I'll give you all the riches of the world if you just jump. Like, you can save yourself. So that could be anything that people, not sell themselves, but like, degrade themselves, etc. But he still stay there 30, 40 days. So I think after that, like, your body kind of becomes in a clean state. Because
Have you
the crazy
fasted
thing
like that
about,
before?
heck no, I done like a week water fast, and that's like the longest I did. Because you do have to like break into that. I don't advise anybody to do that like cold turkey, because the sugar, and like I said, amount of sugar and salt we already take is so much. Like if we cut out everybody's sugar right now, oh my gosh, bro, everybody will be like tired
Crackheads
as
off
hell
crack.
and cranky. Yeah. Tired as hell and then cranky. Like they'll be like
It's
tired for like
withdrawals.
a couple of days. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
withdrawals.
Exactly. So like, there's a lot of things that make it like very, very hard. So all the voices that he heard in his head, not heard, but like that is like just, I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. I don't want to do it. I don't want to. It's not necessarily you, because your consciousness like wants these goals and things for you. The thing that's pushing you away from it is like technically your human wants and desire. Your electricity doesn't have any side. Technically God doesn't pick. If you look at electricity like God, good or bad, it powered all the people that does bad things. It powered all the people that do good things.
I'm also trying to do a fast for 4 days next week, so this is kind of hyping me up for that, to be honest.
Yeah,
Not a water fast.
you're only 106 elements. You know what I'm saying? That's all you are. So like for you to think, and most of it is water, and you don't need to end. You just need a little bit of salt to make it conductive, so that it can make the electricity go. You're quite literally a robot, like a mud robot.
A
So I
mud
mean,
robot.
yeah,
That's what you are, people. A mud robot. Hashtag.
yeah. Just make sure your mud is clean. Everything you put into it's like this.
This is making me want to try that. It's just, I mean, to be honest, I'm just getting to the point where I'm motivated again to work out every day, and I'm not even doing that correctly. I feel like next I need to do the diet aspect of it. But I do think a fast is a really good way to get your priorities straight. Because if you can
Yeah.
stay disciplined through a short, like you said, like I'm not condoning anyone just to fall into a 7-day what, like you got to ease into that shit.
Yeah. No, I
That could
agree. It's
be
kind of like
dangerous.
controlling.
But that's cool.
Hello. Okay, you're still there. So I felt like.
What we got so off topic, my bad, y'all. What failure are you going to discuss with people? Is it professional? Is it personal? Where does failure come into this?
That's actually crazy. It's kind of like exactly what we're talking about. It led into exactly this. My failure is like, even knowing all this is just seeing how hard it is to like just keep up and be consistent, and like realize like I felt like I was never ever able to be consistent. In fact, that whatever I'm doing for coach is like the most consistent I felt like I've been on anything that I said I was gonna stay consistent to. So I guess I've spent so long like finding out reasons to why we stay inconsistent, and that's kind of like how I find out all these things. But that is my failure. Is like, even as educated as I am, as self-aware as I am, like I love people and I love helping people. And but part of focusing on your goal is like kind of like having to cut off, like we just easily say like we got to cut off the distractions, etc., all that easily, like it's normal. But technically as a being, like you said, we're just supposed to be just chilling, but we're not supposed to be working, we're not supposed to be doing anything, we're just kind of supposed to be out there chilling. But we're working, and if you're working the way they have everything set up here, if you're working and then you want to focus on your own thing, you have to completely isolate yourself from other people. It's kind of like we're animals for real. Like we really have like 7 emotions, like it says in the Bible, 7 deadly sins, 7 good virtues. So I felt like getting a hold of myself to like block the noise. Like I can't even describe these things. Like that's how I'm still like dealing with it. Is like,
You're still processing it.
yeah,
It
it's
seems
still
like.
I'm still processing it because you.
But at least you've identified the issue. So your issue is consistency. Like, why can't I be consistent? Do you feel like your desire to help people, part of it is because it distracts you from helping yourself? I feel like that about myself. I've recently had to look inward very much so because a friendship that I held very near and dear to me ended. And I was struggling. I actually talked to Coach about it because I was struggling to process, like, why was I so emotionally tied to this relationship? And part of it was because I had gone out of my way to help this person so much in my mind. But then I asked myself, why did I do that? They didn't ask me to do that. And I've realized, looking back at my relationships, that helping other people selfishly makes me feel valuable, and it distracts me from having to help myself heal, become more self-aware, become more spiritual, find out why I have certain tendencies. That was something I found out probably in the last 2 months. So what I was saying was, do you feel like maybe your desire to help people could be because it distracts you from focusing on helping yourself?
Um, yeah, kind of, but like I also like struggle to know like exactly what it is that I want to do. It's just I try to help people out through actions. That makes sense. So like I dial so much in my head. Like I told you about morals earlier. Like I look at it like a job I can work and make money. I can tell myself like I'm doing a good thing for like that's benefiting others. And so but in the long run, like, spending the hours that I spend there isn't really benefiting me myself or like
Maybe not in the literal sense, but there is selfish gain in helping people, whether we want to talk about it or not. It feels good to help people. It feels good to provide solutions. No?
yeah, but like when you seen like so again, that's why this job is very particular. I just meet so many faces because their life expectancy isn't that long, probably like a year or something. And so um or a couple of years. So I get to meet so many of them and it's like it makes me question like exactly what, if that makes any sense, because of the things that all I hear from the perspective is like I think I'm off topic with your question. What were you saying? Like you said, was I
I was
struggling with
saying
what now?
we were talking about struggling with consistency, right? So, what makes you struggle with
Right.
consistency? And you were saying you really enjoy helping people, but you still haven't figured out exactly
Yeah.
what you want to do. And asked you because I personally am struggling with this
Oh
myself.
yeah.
And I've just come to the realization, do you feel like part of being inconsistent is because you're so focused on helping the people around you that you don't have the bandwidth to really dive in and put in the work necessary to become consistent? You've created like this beautiful
Yeah.
distraction for
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, I did. I apologize. But um yeah, I do like certain jobs. Like, my friend Filipino, he has a restaurant. I try to work there like, 1, 2 days a week. Because in my eyes, I try any job I do have, I want it to be fun. And like I said, it has to be like benefiting somebody I know. And so, but technically, at that one day, like I could work at, my other job and I can get paid like, overtime the same hours I'll be putting in. And having more capital will help me like do more stuff with the camera
Mm-hmm.
and like because time technically buys you, I mean not time, money technically buys you more time to like do other things, like, oh, you don't want to wash your car, you don't want to take that time. That's It's literally like a GTA kind of like, we don't even see cash anymore, it's just all cash app, so it's kind of like points. And so um that would personally, like, I'm only gonna say like that would be the only like main sacrifice I want to like say that I personally like go through. But like just, even just hanging out with friends sometimes, like hanging out or like balancing out time, because like the people you work with aren't like, even in the camera field, aren't like always your friends. So like, I'm kind of too not, I'm not saying I'm real, but like I'm realistic when it comes to like even my friendships. And so like it's like I'm realistic. Hold on one second. I'm realistic when it comes to like my friendship. So if I just know you from like work, I can't. You know what I'm saying, like I value my friendship and my connections on how long I've known you. If we actually do enjoy things, all that other good stuff. But like if if I'm working, I won't be hanging out with my friends. You know what I'm saying? So my fun time would be like being at certain games, shooting photos, and like, linking up with the other photographers. But in my head, like registering that as like fun time. And like, but to your friends, that would be like, oh, you're not hanging out with us, or like, oh, he's busy, can't do this, can't do that. But, and it does like, affect that friendship. And I know that's part of like growing as a person, but
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm still like trying to balance out like being
But what is the relationship that has with consistency?
like the ones that, like, again, like I said, so going out and having fun necessarily isn't something you have to do, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I could be on a football field. I could, like, I'm still like, I'm not gonna say I don't show up on time because I was like, doing not what I should be, like, the night before I probably stayed up, or like, the seriousness they say like athletes take to their craft. Like if you're an artist, like that was trying to do something, like all the YouTube videos that talk about for a certain, like at least a 5-6 period, like I said, like, 6 months, at least like a 4 or 5 6 period, 6 months to learn start learning the craft, and like a couple years to like really solidify yourself. Like there's a lot of things that's going to challenge your consistent, your goal, your dream, that's going to pull you away from it.
Always.
And so to me, I'm not even, that's what I'm saying. I try not to look at friends as a challenge. That's the thing. I guess that's what I'm struggling with, like the verbiage of exactly what I'm talking about. Is like, I wish it wasn't that way. And even failing still, just to recognize it as a problem, I think that's where my failure is. Like,
Do you feel like you struggle with consistency personally more than you do professionally? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, for sure. Cause I work my ass off. Like I know that. I just need like what's it called? A structured environment. You know what I'm saying? So if you have like, I can learn anything if you show me like in 2-3 months. I feel like. So camera is one of the one things like where I had to first like kind of teach myself a little bit. That's totally because I got inspired by my friend, like the Filipino guy. Guy
Mm-hmm.
learned the camera like on Heath Ledger, learning the Joker shit. Locked himself. He actually cut himself off almost for like 6 months. It was only me and his brother. He actually learned everything. He's probably know everything, like every little button. Like he's like a gamer when it comes to the camera, like, and editing
That's
too.
cool.
He learned. I know, right? And so like I know if he can do it, like I can do. I can repeat some kind of that
Model
kind of
it.
behavior.
You can model
Exactly.
his behavior.
So like, um, yes, a lot of the things I do deal with is like personal. I don't think like I'm lazy. I don't, because anybody who thinks like they get tired, you're only tired after you probably work. Everybody's working, right? So if you quit your job and you do something for you, you still won't. You're tired after you work for somebody else. If that makes any sense.
I don't know. I work for myself. I'm still pretty fucking exhausted after a long day, like
No,
mentally.
I'm saying for the people, yeah, mentally, no, for sure, I agree. I'm saying like for the people who are not where they want to be yet, or even
Oh,
haven't started like thinking about what they want to do. Because I look at myself like a regular person. I'm just 9 to 5 guy trying to do something he likes for fun. And so to people like who have to have like work for the other man, you do it for them anyway. Like I know you've seen that on video. So like I know I can push myself a little bit more for me, but because we spend most of our time, our 40 hours at another job, and not for ourselves, when it comes to working on ourselves, we have to sacrifice, because that's our only free time. And we have to go hang out with our friends and all that. I mean, most people work
I
like 50,
agree,
60
but I
hours.
feel
Average
like
American works like 50, 60 hours.
yes, but I feel like our country also has a totally different spin on work, right? When I lived in Spain, every business was closed from 1 to 3. Like work here, it's all about like the American dream, build your own business, like work your ass off and go do something for you. In Europe, there's no shame in having a 9 to 5 and working for someone else. You take pride in your job, but you make time for family. Like they have, like I said, every business is closed from like 1 to 3 p.m. because they're going home and eating lunch with their families. Everyone gets off at like 4, between 4 and 5. And then the restaurants are just packed because everybody eats dinner at like 9 and stays
Yeah.
up late and drinks. Like on holidays, they have like that Friday and that Monday off. Like everything's shut down and everyone parties. I think
I
that
know.
a lot of the depression that is had in this country when it surrounds work and, feeling like they're not where they want to be is because of the media and the culture that lives here.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you, as a foreigner, when one of the first things that I noticed that a behavior that's pre-programmed into Americans is I ain't no bitch, and everybody else
Mm-hmm.
is a bitch. You know what I'm saying? So that comes with like kind of not taking handouts, and we replace like making our own check for somebody that we don't know personally, rather than working for somebody that we know or like a family member. That's why most kids want to move out. Can't stand these people and just because a little bit of hormonal change in your head, like all of a sudden you want to leave. You have
Mm-hmm.
different goals now. Your mind is callous different, and so um, I feel like the parents want to leave. I mean, kids want to leave. My bad, y'all.
No, you're fine.
I'm losing my train.
But when it comes to your struggle with consistency, do you feel like in the last 3 years you've improved or that your
Last
relationship
three
with it
years,
has
I feel
gotten
like in the
worse?
um I feel like I'm getting better. Like I said, it was my first time actually like sticking to like coach, like actually showing up every day for something that's not my day job. That's what the hardest, not my day job because I'm a hard worker. It's consistently sticking to an extracurricular activity. Um, yeah, I feel like I've gotten better, but that's also because I found like somebody that believes in me. Like coach, I feel like he's
Mm-hmm.
actually giving me a chance, and that's very hard. Like even like you said, part of not working for somebody or any like takes their job pridefully is not knowing a lot of small business owners who are nice. A lot of small business owners are always focused on their own money. They're always focused on their restaurants, personal anything. Like that's just the attitude of the business of the common folk business. Like that's why most of them fail. Like if you think about, I told you I worked at a few of my friends' restaurants. Most of the restaurants get their stuff from Restaurant Depot. So all it
Mm-hmm.
is whoever puts it together the best. So if they're failing, it's kind of on their own arrogance or their own ignorance. And so that made me feel like it's hard to find somebody like that. So I was very patient also on like being somewhere that I'm comfortable
Where you
and
feel appreciated and valued.
yeah, where I feel appreciated, valued, like I'm actually also, like I said, helping somebody, but somebody that can also like look out for you, like pay you for your services. Like actually, I don't ask for much, but like people can't even be consistent with that, like
That's a
people,
huge,
everybody,
huge trigger for me. That's a huge trigger for me. I've always felt like you can tell who's really rooting for you out of your friends. Like I'm not even talking your close friends. I'm talking about like your circle, like of your network. Maybe like if you look at your Facebook friends, that's technically like your network. You can
yeah,
always tell who's rooting for you by the people who are willing to pay and the people who are asking for a favor. If
yeah,
you are someone's friend and you believe in what they're doing, you will never ask them to do something for free. Ever. Like rule number one. And I have a lot
right,
of business owner clients. And one of the biggest struggles, and I myself went through it, so I recognize it, is they go through a period, usually in the beginning, where they don't value themselves enough to adequately charge what they're worth. And you'll see which people in their network will take advantage of that.
yeah,
And it leads into this perfect toxic cocktail of you know, I need to raise my prices because now I've had, you know, a couple years experience, but now I'm scared people won't pay for it and I'm going to fail. So they don't. And they continue to work for less than their worth. And then they do eventually fail because you're going to attract what you're demanding.
Yeah.
If you're charging below what you should be charging, there's going to be a lot more people that come to you trying to haggle that price down.
Yeah.
And they're going to
No,
keep
for
trying to
sure.
haggle you down. But if you charge what you're worth or even a little more, you're going to get people that appreciate what you do because they're fucking paying for it.
Yeah.
And they're going to keep you accountable to constantly be approving your business.
Yeah.
So
Like,
that's my 2 cents on that. You go, and I try, and I hope anyone who I've ever employed will say this about me. I have always tried to be the type of employer that I would work for.
yeah. Same.
I've always
I mean,
tried to do
like,
more than the next person because turnover is a bitch in this market, but who the fuck wants to train someone every 6 months?
yeah,
Who the fuck wants
I
to
know.
do
I mean,
that?
well, technically, there's levels. So once you get to a corporate level, you can actually hire somebody to train somebody every 6 months. So.
Yeah, no. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. But still, I don't want that. I want to, what I strive to have, I would rather fail because I'm paying my employees too much and I'm training them enough to where they could leave, but that they choose not to, than to be the other way around. I'd rather sink with my ship with pride if that's the route we're going to take. But you just perfectly validated why I do that because you are going places where you feel you don't mind having a boss is what you're saying. You just want to be with someone who makes you feel appreciated and that makes you want to be there and that feeds into your consistency, whether it's a friendship or a boss.
Yeah. Yeah, and no, for sure. Because at the end of the day, like, there's some kind of hierarchy that you respond to. Like I said, it keeps going and keep going. So you always, whether it's God, your own self, there's somebody you respond to that you don't know you're doing like your whole daily activity. But like I actually look, you got to look beyond just what you see. So like coach some of the kids, like if they can't like have enough to train their coach, he'd be like, okay, you come over to a couple weekends, you train these kids for me, and then guess what? You can just come here, a couple weeks in the summer, whatever. Like, there's no corporate, what's it called? Corporations can't do that because they can't write that off or they can't document it, etc. You know what I'm saying? And so, if small business people think they're corporations, so they can't, even Kangaroo, like I heard somebody the other day, the gas station, they're arguing about, oh, you need to clock out. They make us clock out, so you need to clock out. You can't be riding the clock. We over here arguing about like pennies and dimes and nickels. Like, again, that's another thing that made me like not worry about like losing my day job is, you know how long a million seconds is?
No.
I don't know if you've seen this. It's like a week and a half. And a billion seconds is 31 and a half years. And so, and I see doctors, oh, be a doctor. My parents used to, oh, be a doctor, be a doctor. You make so much money. They make like $300,000 a year. But now that I see the lifestyle they live where they're like working on call, like 6 days a week, like 8 to 12 hours all day for that $400,000. They get a couple weeks off here and there. Like, that's not the life. And so that made me value my time differently. And not necessarily how much money that I'm getting back, but like how much potential. Like if I also do my part in putting in the work, like how can I help this ship go forward? And you can't feel like I said, corporate jobs, they can replace you. Like as much as I feel like, how many times they threatened to fire me at my job, and like I'm one of the most knowledgeable people there. Like I know I am. So like, if you like, it could be little things that small policy changes that they have, like, oh, you can't put our patient on 15 minutes now. It used to be 10, but if I put them on 15 minutes too early or late, now it's like, oh, a write up, one more and you're fired. But like, coach is like, come on, man, like June, why'd you miss a shot, etc. So it is who I work for. Like it's
called
like
grace.
finding the right person to lead you. Yeah.
Having grace. I definitely feel like that margin of grace decreases because businesses, as they grow, have to have a more structured culture in order to scale. But as an employer, you have to
Yeah.
find that happy spot, and it takes years sometimes, and sometimes you never do, of scalability. If you want to grow, some people are perfectly fine making, you know, their business, they get to a point, they're making 100 grand a year, and they're cool with sitting there for 30 years, and that's fine. That's fine. But if you're trying to build a business to scale higher than that, and there's going to be humps, and every time you got to scale. If you're trying to indifferently, if you're trying to scale, you have to find that happy spot of having that great employee culture, but also having the structure in place to continue to grow and make money. And then you got to find, as you scale, where you want to stay. Because I might be great for managing a company that grosses $10 million a year. But when I have to scale to become that $50 million a year company, I might no longer be the right fit to manage that corporation, because now you have to, that margin of grace decreases. It's not about the people anymore. It's about margins and numbers. So I know
and
I will never be able to run a corporation because of that.
Yeah, I mean, we're human. That's why we, as people, don't necessarily like systems, because our life is like, you know, dictated by systems and like exactness, and we're like random. So that's why we, as people, in numbers always clash. But like, there was something that you said there that had captured my thought about employee.
You can rewind. I got structure. I use my hands here. It says structure. I did scalability. I'm rewinding.
Okay. Structure. Money. Focus.
It's okay if we lost it.
You're stuck again.
I'm stuck. You're not. All right, June. What advice?
Get your hand like that. Okay.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back here.
What advice do you wish you could give yourself 5 years ago?
5 years ago. To be consistent. Like, you know, I have so many ideas. Even back then, I have like books. Like now, when I'm looking at it, I'm just pissed at myself. Like having like 3-ring binders, like the 3-inch 3-ring binders, just full of like ideas, and like from hats to restaurants, everything. Like, and sometimes I see them on Twitter, like people post, "Oh, business idea," and I'll be like, "Fuck, no!" Like somebody's gonna beat me to it. Like movie ideas, short videos, short films, but like never schedule. That's I guess that's what I'm talking about. Like, you know, I got to work my balance, a girlfriend, a job, and like how I spend my time in all those, and to like just to focus a little more time on these things, and like they're actually way more attainable than I thought. Even I haven't attained the big things that I wanted, but like seeing the things where they are, like the small things, like I know if I put the work in, like 5 years from now, back then, like I'll probably be in a way different position than I am now. Like everything they say on the YouTube videos are real. Like if you just fucking get up and work your ass off, like I will definitely be in a different position than I am back then. And I think that's probably the only thing I could tell myself, because I don't think I regret like anything else I've done or how I carry myself.
No, that's it's so taboo to say, but I definitely feel, I can't remember who said it. It might have been Tyler Perry said it. I don't even think he came up with it. He was just repeating it. But you are my worst type of client, because you're the person that comes in and you have so many ideas that you want to do, and they change constantly. And I tell them all this, you only have so much water. And you're going to kill your plants trying to water all these fucking plants with this finite amount of water. You pick a fucking plant and you pour all your water on that shit and it will grow. And it just, you have to put that work in. But the problem with people that have a mindset like yours is they love them all equally. or they don't love them all equally. You haven't found the one. So the advice I would give you is that you don't have to fucking love any of them. You don't have to have a favorite one. You just pick one. Do you think the CEO of fucking Pods was like, I'm going to manage storage one day? Like, fuck yeah, bitch. Storage pods. Or like U-Haul. Or like, no. They took the opportunity that they knew. They took something in their life that they knew a fuck ton about. And they built a process and a business around something that they knew the most about. Because that requires the least amount of work for them to grow it. So find something in your life that you're super knowledgeable, the thing you are most knowledgeable about it, and you build a business around that. And you connect to people that are knowledgeable around that. You model people that are around that. You follow people who are experts on that. And you grow through that. You don't have to love it. You don't have to love it. You'll fall in love with it along the way. But that should be your first step. If you're trying to be consistent, stop trying to fall in love with something. Because you're going to hate anything you pick, you'll hate at some point.
Yeah, I agree.
That would be my advice. Huh?
I was saying, human. Some point, anybody's grass, no matter how good you thought, it's gonna seem greener on the other side at some point.
Yeah, everything browns, especially here in Florida. I mean, my grass looks like shit in the winter, and then now it's green and lush. So, I mean, it's the same thing with your goals. They're gonna fucking blow at some point. But, June, I'm sorry our connection was shit today. Whoever's gonna be editing this video is gonna fucking hate their life. But we got some really great tidbits. And
Weston.
Yeah, or Weston or whoever you're gonna have edit this, but it's real. This is what he's paid to do. I'm sure he'll pawn this one off on someone else because it's gonna be a lot of cutting. But I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on. Do you have what is the preferred method of contact? People have questions.
Twitter or Instagram, Lion of Florida.
Is that the same on Twitter?
No, Twitter has D, but it's one F on the Florida and of. But on Instagram, it's just Lion of Florida.
Are you okay with people reaching out to you?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Awesome. Well, I will let you go to bed. I appreciate you. I would love to dive deeper into some of these topics, especially the alien shit. I don't want to freak out people.
Yeah, I know. I knew what the mood was over here, so I didn't want to carry on too much with that either. So I
didn't want to either. I don't need those DMs in my life.
Yeah, the real alien people know, like, we can't talk about it open in the public. Like, we're looked on as.
Yeah, they're like, so many people have been blackballed because of it. Like, why? Might even have to cut that whole thing out. But whatever. I appreciate you. I'll see you around.
Yes, ma'am. Bye. Good night, y'all.